Greetings, everyone, and welcome to the broadcast. I'm Mike Quartararo.
I'm Jeff Hirvela.
And I'm Santa Claus.
This is Mind Matters, where we break silence in legal spaces. Brought to you by ACEDS and MCG. This is a space where we share some real stories and talk about physical, mental well-being, addiction and recovery, and of course, resources for dealing with all the above. Jeff, how are we doing?
Hey guys, I'm doing great. I had a privilege actually of hosting a segment at our recent ACEDS eDiscovery Day in Austin on wellness, and one of our former guests on the show, Alicia Halley, joined me, and we talked a little bit about burnout and wellness in the eDiscovery space. And it was a really fun conversation. I pulled together some kind of holiday theme updates about the state of affairs for wellness and well-being in our industry. And it can be tough this time of year. Let's put it that way. We joke we're not saving lives in this industry. However, the effect this job can have on our lives can be quite drastic. And so, you know, the burnout in the legal industry with the long hours you work, the high pressure, high stress, high stakes cases that we deal with, that's a real constant, you know, pressure that we have. It's compounded in the holidays, adding in the personal family commitments, adding in the financial, you know, I got to get the right gift. I have to travel to see family, trying to budget time to see my kids' Christmas production, making sure that, you know, I spend time with family members, and it's a mental, emotional, financial time constraint this time of year, which is the most wonderful time of the year, right? But it can be overwhelming. So I think just acknowledging it's okay if you're feeling stressed and burnt out. I think a lot of us do, but it's also a lovely time. I'll use a quick example from my own life. I got to drive my daughter to get her learner's permit on Friday of last week. And as I'm driving her, I get a call from a partner that a project that we're working on had a slight hiccup. And I'm using that euphemistically. It was a little bit more, and I got, you know, an earful from the partner, and I'm trying to have a happy moment with my daughter, and I am losing my patience and losing my temper. And I had to, you know, make sure that I, you know, handled the call professionally and respectfully, but also explain to my daughter, I'm not mad with you. I'm not upset with you. I'm just in a stressful moment right now, and I'm not handling it well, but I'm trying to handle it. So I think giving yourself a little bit of grace right now, talking to people. If you're feeling stressed out, just say you are. Just talk about it. I'm working on, you know, my temper, but sometimes I don't always have the best, you know, temper, and I have to work on it and make amends, and just try to do better and keep showing up, trying to do better. So quick story on that. But really glad it's the holidays here, guys, and happy for this episode today. So Mike, how are you?
I'm good. You know, just trying to make it through the holidays, I suppose. It sounds dreadful, but you know, somebody suggested to me yesterday, "Oh, Mike, you must be sad." And my response to that was, no, sad is not the right word. There's certainly a longing. There's certainly a piece of my life that for many years is missing. But look, this is life. We have ups, we have downs, we go through transitions, we change. It's the one thing you're guaranteed, change is going to happen. And, you know, you just manage your way through it. My spirit feels pretty good. I haven't decorated yet. I'm still deciding whether I'm going to. The holidays was always a big thing for my wife, and she's not here. So I'm like, should I decorate? I don't know.
Yes, you should.
All right, Tom. With that, I mean, Tom's been sitting here. For anyone who doesn't know Tom O'Connor, let's bring him in and introduce him. Tom O'Connor is an industry legend in my view, and currently a consultant in our space. And Tom, welcome to the broadcast.
Thanks for having me, guys. Great to be here. As you can tell, I love Christmas. I know what you're. I know what you're describing,
and
Mike.
And the Saints.
Well, the Saints. You know, hope springs eternal that Santa will bring us a football team. You know, we get spoiled by years of group drinks, and now we've got everything but real quick, your point, Mike, about decorating. Gail was the same way. Gail was her middle name was Griswold. I mean, she decorated her place and the house next door and the house across the street. When she died and we went to clean out her storage unit, there must have been 10,000 pounds of Christmas lights. It was ridiculous. But I find that decorating to a far less extent than that, of course, but it kind of keeps that spirit alive. It brings back tons of great memories about different places we lived and different houses we decorated. The most famous being when we lived in San Diego for a couple of years. I was working on a case. We lived in First Coronado. We lived on the water. We lived right on the beach on the other side of California, and literally we were up on a breakfront overlooking the water. So we put up a tree in the window that opened up onto the water. And then we went and walked down the beach, and we're walking down the beach arm in arm. Oh, isn't that beautiful? We're looking up at the tree in the window, and we see the tree start to bam, like we hadn't quite secured it all the way. So I find decorating really kind of helps alive in the spirit and brings back lots of good memories. So
it's fair. I'm not opposed to it. I'm just haven't decided to do it yet.
I hear you. I know it's tough. Especially when you're still fresh in the grieving process. Which it's been 5 years for me and it's still fresh. There's a great line from Field of Dreams, the movie Field of Dreams. Although the line was taken directly from the book it was based on. Shoeless Joe comes to Iowa, and they ask him if he missed baseball. They asked Shoeless Joe if he missed baseball. He said, when they threw me out of baseball, it was like they cut a piece of my body off.
Yeah.
And that, you get used to it, but it doesn't go away.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
And there's the phantom limb that sort of hangs around, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it is, something we talked about with a recent guest, Natalie Carter, was about honoring those in our past and the different stages of grief. And Tom, you mentioned you're, 5 years removed. It's still real. Maybe it's not active grief, but it still is grief. And a nice way to honor those is to talk about memories of them and to talk about their impact. And Gail, just an outsized person, brought so much into so many people's lives. I like to say it's a story of motorcycles, mayhem, and merriness, based on some of the themes for today. But thought, it might be a nice way to honor her, talking about the story. How Christmas became such a big part of your lives, and the motorcycle Santa kind of theme that you guys built. Sure.
Well, as Mike knows, Gail and I both rode motorcycles, and she was like everything she did it 110%. She came up with the idea, I don't know, probably 15, 20 years ago on Christmas. New Orleans is a great Christmas city. They light up the French Quarter gets lit up, and there's a huge Christmas tree overlooking the river and Jackson Square and all that stuff. And Gail said, well, we should dress up like, put on Santa outfits and ride our bikes. We both get up early in the morning, and people are going to be getting ready. They're going to be on their porch, or, we can drive through the neighborhood. And so we started doing that on Christmas morning, ride to the coffee shop. And then it all of a sudden, after a couple of years, we had a whole group of people who did it with us. All of a sudden, other people we knew who had motorcycles wanted to join in. So we would start at my friend's cigar shop in the heart of the French Quarter. His shop is right behind the cathedral, so it's literally in the middle of the French Quarter. We'd start there, and then mostly ride around the quarter and around some of the hotels and throw candy to kids and it was pretty funny because the adults were enjoying it more than the kids were, I think, in many instances. And we'd stop different places, but a couple of funny stories associated with it. One of them was one year, of course, we're just wearing Santa hats. We're driving through the French Quarter. We're doing like 5 miles an hour, right? A cop literally pulled us over, waved us over. I don't know what Grinch detail this guy came off of, but he starts giving us a piece of his mind because we're not wearing helmets. And literally I'm going, yeah, all right, yeah, great, that's great, sure, okay, let's just get out of here. But of course, Gail would have no part of it. And she's she's Mrs. Santa. She's all decked out, and she goes, seriously, you're gonna give Santa a ticket for not wearing what's wrong with you? And she's like in his face, like, rah, 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 rah. Like, and so now kids are walking by going, man, Mrs. Santa's gonna kill that cop. What's going on here? And then the cop kind of starts backing up. He's going, well, all right, just be safe. Just be safe. No, we're going to, when we finish here, we're going to ride down the sidewalk and then up the street to the steps of the cathedral and do tire burnouts in front of City Hall. Like, come on, of course we're going to be safe. We're having fun.
And that was Gail. Like, don't rain on Gail's parade. Do not.
Exactly. So another time when we finished, we would end up, as I said, at the cigar shop, and some of us, we all sit on our bikes outside, and people become, walking by. And the other side of the street from the cigar shop is a big hotel. So there's a lot of tourists and people coming in and out. So we're all sitting there, and people are taking pictures, and it was great. We're talking with people, and little kids are running up, and can I sit on your motorcycle, Santa? But one tourist came up to her, to Gail, and started to hand her a $1 bill. Like he thought we were busking. He thought it was some sort of a tourist thing, right? And Mike, Gail, quick-wittedness was one of her attributes. Without missing a beat, she looks at the guy and she goes, "Oh no, Mrs. Santa doesn't do that anymore." To the general hilarity of all the Santas in the group. Oh yeah, Mrs. Santa turned a new leaf. No, Santa's pure now. Yeah, she doesn't do that. So it was great fun. It was great fun. It always reminded me, and we don't have it. I keep trying to get it started down here. When we lived in Seattle, there was a church group that had a thing on Christmas where they would get names of families from their other parishioners, of people who were down and out, like a guy who had just lost his job and he couldn't afford, sort of a secret Santa thing, but it was, more for the family and the kids. And then everybody in the parish would donate toys, clothes, food. And then on Christmas Eve, at the height, there were maybe 10 of us, would get dressed up as Santa and have the bag, and we each have a helper. In my case, it was Gail. And we would go to these houses, and I mean, it's kind of choking me up even talking about it, because these people were not expecting this. They had been not told that this was going to happen. And we'd knock on the door, and we'd have the kids' names, and we'd ask for the kids, and just bring these bags of toys in. And it was just a real remembrance of what the real lesson of Christmas is, And we say it in AA as well. You get by giving.
Yeah.
You got to give it away. You don't grow by sitting on your couch watching a football game. Get out and throw some candy to kids, or bring some kids some presents, and kind of spread the joy, because it's a great time of year. It's just, to me, I love Christmas more than any other holiday, even Mardi Gras. Don't tell anybody in New Orleans I said that.
And Tom, you mentioned AA. You're kind of known for your sobriety, and
yeah.
I mean, I don't think they make a coin for the number of years, right?
They make a coin for all the years. Trust me.
Yeah. I know. I think you can get one every year, but you must have a stack of coins.
I do.
How do you navigate the holidays? Frankly, I've always been sort of amazed at how you navigate the industry, with all the partying and drinking and stuff that we do.
Yeah. It's funny. One year at Legal Tech, we got invited to some party, and Gail, of course, was sober as well, although she struggled with it a little bit more than I, luckily, have not. But we got invited to this party, and the booze is flowing, and everybody's having fun. Gail's like, well, where were these parties back when we were drinking? And I said, oh, they were here. They just didn't invite us. They knew not to invite us to one of these parties. They didn't have enough booze in New York to keep us going all night. So yeah, it is a big deal. You know, you talked about the stress in the profession. Most of the numbers we see have substance abuse in the legal profession in the 20%, when it's 12, 13, 14% nationwide, you know, so it's a bigger deal. One of the things I've done over the years, you know this, Mike, is I've tried to go every conference I attend. I've tried to go to them and say, let's do an AA meeting, and had varying success depending upon I remember one company who will remain nameless said to me, well, we don't have a problem. That's kind of like saying we have a problem here. We don't want to do that. I said, well, you know, how many employees do you have? And he said 2,000. I said, you got 200 problems.
Yeah.
You may not know it, and they may do a really good job of hiding it. I did for years, but you got a problem, and it's there. And you know, we'll be quiet. We'll be down in the basement and stay away from everybody. You know, it's like that bit in the series, the TV series, The West Wing, where they were doing a secret AA meeting down in the basement of the White House, and all these senators and, you know, the vice president shows up, and, you know, you just never know who's gonna be there. So I think that's one of the things I do, is just try to, you know, push people for meetings, because it's easy. And the other thing is just talk about it. Yeah, I haven't been shy about. Of course, it's an old joke in AA. You start telling people I'm an alcoholic, it's not like they're surprised. Oh, really, Tom? There's a shocker. Everybody else already knew that. So,
yeah.
You know, you talk about it and you try to, you know, get people to have AA is based on drunks helping drunks. You know, we help each other. That old U2 song, carry each other, right? And that's what it's all about. So, and one thing that really happens a lot in the AA community at this time of year, because it's stressful, you know, all of us think about the Christmas we ruined, or the Christmases we ruined when we were drunk. Mm-hmm. Gail used to tell great stories about, you know, falling over at the table and knocking the candles over and the fire starts. And, you know, I just wouldn't show up. I'd forget, oh, today's Christmas? Oh, my God. I thought that was tomorrow. Bad Santa, you know, a lot of bad Santa memories. So people tend to fixate on that. And in the AA community, what you get is a lot of marathon meetings. You know, they'll start meetings at midnight on Christmas morning and go until midnight the next night. And so that there's always a place to go and drop in. And there'll be a revolving meeting, but also fellowship and people bringing food and potlucks and someplace where you can just go and talk to somebody in a non-threatening manner. So, yeah, it's just talking about it, you know, getting out and talking about it. That's the big thing.
And that's kind of a big thing that, you know, one of the reasons we started doing this, I told Mike that I wanted to talk more about sobriety and, you know, wellness. And I was saying, let's do an episode. And he said, let's do a series and let's bring people in and let's talk to more people. I was like, oh my gosh. And so we kind of ranged from everything from sobriety to burnout to anxiety and, you know, different mental wellness and physical wellness. We talked about running it on one of the episodes. And so like you mentioned, talking about it, you know, I'm pleasantly surprised to see more and more conferences have on their calendar a meeting in the morning. And sometimes they call it like a friend of Bill. Sometimes it's, you know, a sober, like there's different names for it. It's not always outright AA. And, you know, we in AA say we don't have a corner on the market. However, I just wish for people to find a healthy life for themselves. And maybe that involves some drinking. Maybe you're a normie and you can handle it. Like, you know,
I think that's the thing, is not to be judgmental. You know, when you first get sober, you go to a meeting, you think, oh, there goes the fun. I'm never going to have any fun again. And then far from it. Not only do you still have fun, but you remember it.
From the guy with the Santa hat on.
There's plenty of fun.
It. Yeah.
You know, you talk about calling it different things. Quick story. Bar associations, of course, are big in it. You talk about resources. Most bar associations, state bar associations now, have some sort of a department or an officer. They call them different names, but somebody who's there to be a resource, and also sort of a not report you to the cops mentality. It's sort of a diversion program before you get into the disciplinary side of things. So they can help get you straightened out. And so I used to be very active with the Mississippi Bar Association. We're right next door. A lot of Mississippi firms have offices in New Orleans, and so we were doing a meeting every year at their annual bar. And one year they put up this big sign in the lobby, a meeting with Bill W., 7 a.m. every day in room such and such of the hotel. Well, we get down there one morning and there's like 50 people. And I'm thinking, wow, there's not that many alcoholics at this meeting. What's going on? What we found out was the incoming president of the bar, his name was Bill Wainwright or something.
Yep.
So everybody thought they were going to have breakfast with the new bar president, and boy, were they disappointed.
It's a very different meeting.
Not only is Bill not here, but there ain't going to be any Bloody Marys either.
I think you bring up some good points too, Tom. Like, and it kind of blends into the resources, but use what's in place, especially this time of year. I had a conversation with someone yesterday, and they took some mental wellness leave, and they used and their point was like, I talked to HR, I found out what my options are, I found out what my rights are, like what I am allowed to take off and what I'm entitled to, and then pursued that course. But something that Alicia mentioned on our call as well. You mentioned the lawyer assistance programs. You were kind of alluding to that. Employee assistance programs. Like, please do use those. There is some stigma. This goes back to your comment about, when I said I was an alcoholic, I'm expecting people to be shocked, and everyone's like, yeah, no kidding. You finally figured it out. And so there's a stigma I had early on where it's like, I don't want to tell people that I'm in recovery because that means I had a problem, when they all freaking knew I had a problem. Like it was no surprise. And so
the biggest reaction is thank God, right?
Yeah, they're not like, oh my gosh, it's like great, good. And so using that, like, the resources, talking about it. You don't need to disclose what you're going through. Keep it private if you want to keep it private. I like to talk about it because I always say, if I hadn't heard from others what they did, I'd still be making the same bad decisions. I'd still be drinking. I'd still be drugging. And back to the point about Christmas, I'd still be like waking up Christmas morning wondering, like, if I got all the gifts I was supposed to get, if I embarrassed myself, do I owe apologies? Also, like, how am I gonna get my next drink today when it's a family day and I gotta hide it? Like, a horrible life to live for me personally.
Yeah, ditto, and absolutely ditto.
Yeah.
How late are the stores open?
Yeah.
I can remember actually being in downtown Boston one year. I have a couple of friends who were cops, lawyers in town. Anyway, I'm shopping, running around trying to find stuff. But downtown, the shopping district of downtown Boston is next to what's called the combat zone. And somehow I find myself in a strip club, right? It's like, it's like 5:00 p.m. on Christmas Eve, right? Even the girls don't want to be there. and I look around the room and I see like 5 guys I know. And I'm thinking, oh man, this is not good.
Yeah, I think in a low moment that was like one of the few places still open on Christmas Eve, and I found myself in the same situation. Yep.
Hey, Tom, we always like to segue to resources. And you're a wealth of knowledge about recovery, and certainly an icon in our industry. For someone who's facing holiday stress or not sure they're going to make it through without grabbing a drink or smoking a joint or taking a pill or whatever the case may be, what do you recommend? I mean, we've talked about AA, but are there other resources that?
Well, So let me say, first of all, AA, and one of the reasons we talk about it, you just hit on it a second ago, is it's really not restricted to alcohol anymore. I mean, it's addiction. We realize that alcohol is a drug. Cocaine, phenobarbital, smoking, whatever. A drug, an addiction is an addiction, and so you'll find that if you look under AA resources, you're going to find what are called open meetings, and the only reason to be there is a desire to stop. The first thing I recommend is, first of all, AA has 800 numbers everywhere. You can, and I don't care if you live in Bozeman, Montana. You can find an 800 number where somebody will talk to you. It's not just a resource. If you say you have a problem, and I'm really feeling down and I'd like to talk, so somebody will get on the phone or they'll have somebody call you back. But even better, what we're doing right now, the internet, man, the wonder of the internet.
Yeah.
If you look for whether it's AA or Narcotics Anonymous, depression, you're going to be able to find an online meeting on the internet, and there are hundreds of them every day. And you can get face to face, just like this, with a room full of people who are going through the same thing you're going through. And I do it a lot. Sometimes I'm having a bad day. I get pissed off at somebody. Blah, blah, blah. My regular meeting is until 6 o'clock tonight. Time for a lunch break, and I'll jump online and just, hit a meeting online just to get that little boost. Because it works. It's there. It's a 24-hour a day, 24/7 resource. And whether you're in a big city, small city, remote, rural, urban, doesn't matter. The internet's virtually everywhere and has great resources for you, and then can turn you on to other local things. And then I think the next thing beyond that is to find somebody to talk to. If you are a lawyer, or if you're in the legal profession, you don't have to just be a lawyer. The Lawyer's Assistant Program. See if your state bar association has a lawyer's assistance program, and that person is usually available. Again, if not 24/7, they'll get back to you really quickly, and we'll have a list of local resources for what's area. That's not just AA. That's depression.
Yeah.
That's suicide, ultra depression. Whatever is bothering you, those lawyer assistance programs. And I think they're in about 35 of the bar associations now have them. They're just great programs, great programs, and I can't recommend those enough. And then if you're religious at all, check with your church or your synagogue or your religious group, whatever it may be, because I guarantee you, especially at the holidays, they are going to have resources of people who are willing to talk to you. And to me, it's all about everything we said is you want that human contact. You want, like Bruce Springsteen said, it's the human touch, right? You want to get that one-on-one where somebody is telling you you're not alone. When we first go into the program, the first thing nobody thinks like me. I'm different. I'm not like any of these people in the room. And then you realize, I am. I'm exactly like them.
And I'm reminded too about, and I don't know that AA really has a lock on this, but and it sounds perhaps a little bit trite, but phone a friend, man. Have a friend. Have a friend that you can talk to, someone that understands and can take. Sometimes just a few minutes of conversation can sort of get something out that is kind of festering. And
exactly,
in AA, most recovering alcoholics have a sponsor, and that's their person. That's they call. But you don't have to be in AA. You could just have a friend who
have a friend. Exactly. One of the things I love about my neighborhood, I live in a nice little neighborhood in what's called Mid City, the middle of New Orleans. It's a nice little residential neighborhood, but there's about I could throw a baseball from my front porch in any given direction and hit a house with somebody who's in recovery in one thing or another. So when I take a walk around, I'm going to run into somebody who's in some sort of recovery. If I go to the grocery store, I'm going to see somebody. That sort of human touch, and call a buddy. You just can't say enough about that. To me, meetings and the human connection are the lifeline of recovery. That's what keeps me sober.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Some common themes in all this stuff. Community is essential. Having people around, people in your life. Don't isolate, especially this time of year. It can be tempting to, if you're going through stuff. The human connections. I'll leave with an acronym that we use in the program, but it applies to everything. We call it HALT. So give yourself a little bit of grace. I'll preface saying, if you're feeling stressed, if you're feeling anxious, burnt out, whatever, give yourself a little bit of grace. This is a busy time of year. And then check in with its acronym, HALT. Are you hungry? H, hungry. Eat something. Are you A, angry? Maybe take a walk away, go outside, take a deep breath, work on some grounding techniques, try to just de-escalate. L, lonely. Are you lonely? Back to what we were just talking about. Call someone. Check in on them and ask them how they're doing. Like, get out of your own head by asking them how they're doing. Be of service to someone else. That's the surest way to get out of a funk. And then T, the last one, tired. Are you tired? Take a nap. Like, take a spiritual nap. Take a just 20 minutes, just a reset. Like, it's okay right now. Give yourself a little bit of grace and get through it one moment at a time, one day at a time.
Yeah, I tell you, at the holidays, I really stress the L. That lonely. You got to get out. You got to talk to people. There's a great. I'm sure you've heard this story about the guy who calls his sponsor and he's complaining about this and that. And the sponsor says, finally, where are you? And he goes, well, I'm home. He goes, you're home. Are you all alone at home? And he goes, well, yeah. And the sponsor starts yelling at him, get out of the house. You're trapped in the house with a crazy man.
Yeah. It's like, I'm in dangerous territory. Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, guys, we're at time.
Yep.
We could talk about this all day long, I'm sure. But we try to put some limits on it.
Hey, people have tried that with me before, Mike.
I know.
The lost cause.
Thomas, great to see you. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for sharing.
My pleasure.
Jeff, you want to take us out?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Tom. Lovely. And one final comment too. In honor of Gail, there is the Gail O'Connor Spirit Award that is done every year, and something that they award to someone that embodies her personality and spirit. So just one last tribute to Gail, and the joy and light she brought into people's lives.
Yeah,
check
it out. There's a LinkedIn page called the Gail O'Connor Spirit Award. The Maribel Rivera from ACEDS is one of the prime movers behind all that. She keeps the site up, and check it out, and we'll start taking nominations for next year's award after the holidays.
Fantastic. Well, as we always say here, you're not alone. We just talked a lot about that, especially this time of year. You're not alone. Call us, reach out to us. We're here. And we're all getting there one step at a time, guys. So until next time, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks, guys. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Happy holidays.